And it's really that delineation between training and coaching, I'll say, where it depends on the skill set of someone, it depends on their abilities and their technical acumen, and really being able to meet people where they're at is how you get the best out of your team. And I think people are always looking for them to meet where they're at, or leaders or bosses. I'm the boss, right? You need to cater to my needs instead of looking at how can I help them and support them and what are their needs. So it really flips the script a little bit.
Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedlak, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Megan. Megan, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Michelle. I am enthusiastically here today, ready to play, ready to answer some tough questions and dig into it.
Awesome. So let's start off with the highlights of who you are and a quick introduction to your business.
Absolutely. I'm Megan Robinson, as you so aptly said already. I am a business and leadership coach, specializing in really what I like to call emerging leaders, also known as the pesky millennials, also known as everyone that I'm going to say fell into leadership. Because I'm pretty sure everyone can remember that first managerial job, that first leadership role they got with absolutely zero training, zero resources, and zero support. And so I really, you're just like,
that's always my favorite is when the best person gets promoted and they're like, okay, so how do I talk to these people? Right.
Right. Like, what am I responsible for? I'm really good at doing a thing.
Yeah. Nice. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one, I can tell. So let's back up the bus. And how did you get into leadership as a thing?
Yeah. So I actually started my career. 13-year-old Megan said she wanted to be the VP of marketing and advertising. True story. So my whole first career was agency life. I went to the dark side and did corporate Fortune 500. And then I went to the dark side and did more agency work. And I had my own. So I had my own sales and marketing agency. I did the entrepreneur journey. And really at the end of it, focused on what I was passionate about, what I wanted to do to give back, what I was kind of good at. And I used to call it business therapy. And I know all the service providers out there are like, yes, I am my client's therapist. I'm my client's business therapist. But I loved it. That was really what I really was passionate about. So I did do the coaching certification and really focused on leadership development because I found that that was really what was holding a lot of people back. They didn't understand what it meant to be leaders. They didn't have a leadership vision. They didn't really put the intentionality around developing those skills. And so as they start growing, as they start becoming entrepreneurs and have clients to lead and teams to lead and continue to grow, it wasn't really honed in. And it's kind of this like self-help, good luck sphere of independent study. And so I found with a little bit more support, with guidance, with having that business therapist to talk to, you make strides so much quicker and businesses really grow because of that.
I love it. So is there any particular niche that you like to work with or any particular businesses or any, like, who's your favorite? I love to work with these guys.
Ooh, I love it. I like to say leadership is agnostic, right? Every industry needs leadership. That being said, I work a lot with organizations and teams, as well as leaders in service providers, marketing agencies. Finance is fabulous because you have a lot of technical expert. Technology is incredible for me, but I've also done work with manufacturing organizations, all across the board and gambit. And quite a few entrepreneurs really on scaling that first early stage team and having a couple of those resources and ideas to bounce off of. Because it's
nice. Well, and let's talk about that a little bit, because like I said earlier, it was always my experience that founder-based companies tended to hire really well, and then they would promote their best, which sounds great in theory, but to me, it was terrible in practice because most of them were lone wolves that they knew how to do their thing. They were super good at their thing, but they hadn't broken down, how do I do that thing? So in your experience, is that true across the board? Let's start with that.
I think it's everyone's leadership evolution, and people are at different stages at different times. So I've seen really senior executive leaders, longtime leaders still stumbling with that delegation aspect that you kind of hinted on there, right? Like they don't know how to delegate because they just know what they're doing, or their expectations are too high because they expect everyone to produce the same quality as them. And so I do see it particularly with founder companies where it's really hard to give up stuff. It's hard to shift from doing to leading, which is a tough shift. And that happens early stage managers all the way along the way, because I'm pretty sure everyone remembers the micromanager boss that they had. They're like, why are they hovering on me this like this? Why won't they let me do it? And it's only gotten exasperated, I'll say, with work from home, hybrid environments, which continues to put the pressure on it.
Well, and I think it's really hard for a lot of managers because if you've hired new staff, they really don't know what to do. And you kind of sort of do have to micromanage them until they figure out what they're doing. And then if you hire the experts and they're like, okay, go away. No,
It's
we're
hard
not,
to
we're not going to
understand.
work this way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really that delineation between training and coaching, I'll say, where
Right.
it depends on the skill set of someone, it depends on their abilities and their technical acumen, and really being able to meet people where they're at is how you get the best out of your team. And I think people are always looking for them to meet where they're at, or leaders or bosses. I'm the boss, right? You need to cater to my needs instead of looking at how can I help them and support them and what are their needs for them. So it really flips the script a little bit. Like I said, that doing to managing and leading is a mindset shift. It's a different perspective and it's a different set of expectations, really, because you're not necessarily responsible for the work, you're responsible for the people.
So to me, there's a huge segregation between an entrepreneur who's kind of starting a team and figuring out how this all works to somebody that is in quote unquote middle management. So regardless of whether it's a founder-based business or a public business, they're going into a system that kind of sort of works.
Theoretically.
Yeah, and they're still trying to figure out how it all goes down. But is there a segregation between those two positioning of middle management, if you want to put it that way?
I will say it's a little bit in the how you go about it. It's the how versus kind of the why. And I'll say I teach and focus a lot on what I call self-leadership. Lead yourself so that you're able to lead others. And the same skills, I will say, are applicable for both of those audiences. Same thing I say about generational leadership, right? Your baby boomers and your millennials, they both need to have strong communication skills. They both need to bring emotional intelligence to the table. It's not one versus the other. Those are kind of leadership fundamentals, I'll say, in leadership practices. How it gets done with an organization, I was going to say, is more the management needs for it, right? Like that's which boxes you have to check or what their processes are for something, but how you lead people, how you listen to people effectively, how you lead with curiosity or asking great questions, that's going to be actually pretty consistent, whether you're the startup founder or whether you're stuck in the the middle management grind. You will have different
we feel
situations.
For you.
Right? Like your entrepreneur doesn't have, sometimes you have a board that you have to report to, but that middle manager is really kind of getting squeezed from the bottom to the top. So their challenges are a little bit different, but the same skill sets are typically coming out for both.
Nice. And are you noticing right now that it's kind of the baby boomers or the Gen Xers or the millennials? Like, is anybody in particular going, oh my God, I need you so badly?
I do focus a lot with, I'll say, emerging leaders and that mid-level manager focus. So I jokingly say pesky millennial. I am one. That being said, I have people that have grandkids that are clients of mine that, that are definitely not in my generation. And some of the skill sets are totally different. Sometimes they need to work, they're honing on different aspects on that leadership curve. So I do have a specialty, I'll say, with some of the more emerging leaders, some of the managers that are coming into it, but I love the entrepreneurs because I find that there's such that consulting versus coaching balance going on in them. And I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they go from consultant to consultant and kind of find all of these like done for you package systems that you like follow this process and it's kind of laid out. And they like, it doesn't work for me. I'm like, that's because you haven't really figured out your business enough to apply these things. And so kind of with that coaching first approach, I say, it's much more of the, okay, how are you seeing this? What are your goals and objectives, and reverse engineering it? So people that are really self-aware, that know exactly what they want, they go into those programs, they're crazy successful with it. It's like the franchise model, right?
Yep.
It's a little bit of that process to it.
Right. And I promise this will be my kind of quirky question is, and this is just purely my curiosity coming out. Is there a difference between kind of what I'm going to call the Instagram companies that it's all about the marketing and the creative it seems to be really high energy, high creativity, got to be done now kind of stuff. And I guess, some mortgage companies fit into that as well, and the kind of slower, methodical, we have processes, it has to be done this way kind of management teams where one is expecting them to have a certain knowledge base and the other one's expecting them to be, creative and spontaneous.
I'm going to say even with the creative and the spontaneous organizations, their challenges are kind of opposite sometimes, right? Like they need a little bit more of that process. The pendulum swings from one side to another. So if you get in those hyper creative places, are they profitable? I mean, it sounds kind of silly, but some of those metrics and numbers and that structure behind it isn't always there. As opposed to where you have those really kind of regulated or consistent or process-driven organizations, they're looking for what's next. They don't have the voices or the ideas coming from the team. So really being able to nurture a little bit more of that into the inspiration and the creativity can be a challenge. So you kind of just threw it on both sides of it.
Yep.
The leadership on both of them, again, I'm going to come back to fundamentals. How are you listening to your team? What is it that your team needs? They need different things. And leaders are really responsible with being flexible in that. Their style has to be really, really great leaders are able to adjust and accommodate based off of what their team needs. So I was talking with another coach actually today about a leader. I'm trained in DISC. I do a bit of the DISC if you're familiar with behavioral assessment. And he has a really strong high D leader, super direct, kind of that I, very, people oriented, and this leader has a team full of C's and S's, which are much more consistent, much more the process oriented style, much more stable. And so the leader wasn't getting any feedback from the team, right? They weren't giving him ideas that he was looking for, things to bounce off of. I was like, well, how is he asking them? Right? It's not that they don't have ideas. It's that he's expecting, and it was a he, them to be in the moment and giving feedback immediately and not being able to give them the time that they needed in order to process and give the right feedback. So kind of that different styles merging together, that happens in every organization, every team. And a leader that's able to flex and accommodate those so that they're getting the most out of their team, they're getting the best from them. That's what makes them successful in any environment.
Love it. And so in working with you, what would you say are some of the fundamentals, the pillars that you go through of kind of what do they need to be looking at in order to function well?
So I focus on 4 different themes of self-leadership and really kind of those building blocks. So I'll focus on vision building and goal setting, really having some ideas of what you want, where you're going, what your intentionality is to it. And even strategy fits into that and being more strategic is part of vision. Second piece is self-awareness. Having a really understanding of yourself, how you're being perceived, how your own flexibility and adaptation is working with that. Move into communication skills. So big, so all encompassing a lot of what we do. And finally, I do a lot of emotional intelligence work and bringing up that awareness. And I find that any leadership challenge you've had ladders back to one, if not all of those pillars.
Yep. Oh, funny how this is all interrelated. That's awesome. I think it was Simon Sinek that I was watching the other day, and he was talking about how when you're in middle management, you get to panic about things. That's almost part of your job. We expect it of you, and that's great. Once you get into leadership roles, you never get to panic again in front of anybody else. It's like you can go into any closed room you want to. As soon as you walk out, we need to know that you're level-headed and you can see this go through. And I thought it was kind of funny in that, well, one, it's true. And I think a lot of leaders don't look at that aspect of who they are and how they're perceived, because they think if they freak out on something, they're taking control of it. They're, making a sense of urgency. And it's like, no, you're just looking like you panic.
I was reading an HBR article actually this morning on really kind of sharing that vulnerability or being more open and transparent in that emotional context. And so much, which is kind of that same piece as that panic. And it's not necessarily, oh, I'm being authentic or I'm being vulnerable with them. It's that, no, you're actually giving them less confidence in you as a leader. And it doesn't mean that you have to have all the answers, right? There's that balance of here's what the plan is, here's how we're going to approach something. And even admitting, I don't know, or hey, this is why this concerns me. What are you guys seeing? And having those conversations without just being hair on fire.
Right. Well, I love that bringing it back to the team. So you're still calm. You're still saying, we have not nailed this yet. I'm looking for ideas and I want to see what's going down. But just being able to have that as a kind of calm water conversation.
I'm going to say it's the moving it forward. If you're just stuck in panic mode, then all you're doing is having that reaction to it. If you're able to be transparent about a feeling or concern or voice those and be open and honest while saying, what are we going to do? Here's what I'm seeing. How can we overcome this? You're continuing to actually instill the trust. You're moving it forward for something instead of just sitting in the panic.
Love it. So what do you see are some of the biggest mistakes that leadership is making right now?
I think the hardest thing is listening and really, really listening to your team, listening to the market, listening to your clients. I was actually doing a little bit more disc with another group of executives and actually watched the CEO not be able to tell each one of his team members if they were an introvert or an extrovert. And they'd been together for over a year. Like this was not a new team. Some of them were like long timers. And I was secretly just like, man, this is telling me everything about that leader's listening ability. Yes, someone will flex in the moment, right? Yes, they can perform. Any introvert knows, yeah, I can do a client presentation. I might not like it, but I can perform for it. But the fact that he couldn't see the difference or where someone was comfortable or discomfortable kind of shook me a little bit. I was like, that's really telling. So some of the
even if you fake that and go, oh, they're all ambiverts, totally all ambiverts. At least you're quick on your shoes and though.
I like that. Like, oh, let's just go with the non-answer, the political answer.
That's hilarious.
So
give us an example of one of your Cinderella stories of one of your clients, somebody that was kind of mess and chaos before and came out shining.
You know, I loved a client a couple months ago. We were talking about skills and competencies and really identifying what their team needed and how they were going to support them in their growth and development. And I challenged them. I was like, okay, you know, we've talked about skills and competencies. We have all this stuff. I've made you guys like really put down what do you want from your team, putting together these plans. Who doesn't think that their team is capable of it? Like flat out, like who doesn't think that their team can rise to that level, can actually meet the things that you want them to be able to do? And this guy said, you know, had you asked me that question 4 months ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. And it was that shift in belief, that shift in approach, that shift in their leadership style that no, it's not like, oh my God, the client grew by 5,000%. It was someone had made complete conscious decisions on how to lead their team more effectively, how to be a leader that believed in their team in a different way. So
I love that. And what a dangerous question to ask if you were doing like a team bungee jumping exercise. Not him.
Did you just push them off? Was that move? Like, not you. Off the team. Not the way you want to find out you're getting fired.
So ropes. He was fine.
There's bungees for a reason. Follow the process, people. There's your final test.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well,
Oh,
and I assume too that there's a lot of people, and especially in leadership roles, that are just like, I don't get how I'm supposed to lead these people. Like, I don't get how they're supposed to. You can have as many meetings as you want with them. And if you're not speaking the same language, if you're not leading, you know, if they're going in asking a ton of questions and they should be coming in with a vision and saying, hey, where do you see yourself in this? That can be a very long road. Let's put it that way.
It's a long road, but you'd be surprised. I don't think you'd be surprised at, how often do you really sit down and ponder these things? How often do you have the space or the time to put the tough questions to yourself, to have those answers, to build out your whys, to build out what you really want in a situation? I had another client that, I love her. She rose into a presidential role at her company. So she
Nice.
is younger. And I probably asked her for a year, like, do you want that role? Do you want that? Like, you actually have to choose whether or not that you want that. And we were just going over preparing for her performance reviews for the end of the year, right? So it's like, okay, what questions do you want to ask people? Like, what do you really want to get out of these conversations, so that you're not just going through the motions every day,
Yep.
that you're really intentional and putting together something thoughtful, so that you're building stronger relationships, so that you're getting more out of that team.
Awesome. Well, and it reminds me of, I was recently talking to a young guy. I think he was like 26 years old. And he goes, yeah, I'm one of the youngest senior executives in the company. And it's really weird working with, 50, 60-year-old people. He goes, but I love leadership. And it's like, it's awesome and it's fun and it's passionate. And it was funny because he totally portrayed that it wasn't about the power struggle. It wasn't about the ladder. It wasn't about any of it. It's just he naturally was really good at motivating and incentivizing teams and helping them access the resources they needed in order to be successful. And he said, some of my best relationships are with the 50, 60-year-olds, because they're just like, oh, you're an asset. This is awesome. Let's go. So yeah, that was super fun.
It really does not have to do with age in a lot of that. There are experience. I was just talking today, actually, however many at-bats you have, however much experience you have, doesn't really matter unless you're reflecting and learning from it.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of baby boomers, I know a lot of baby boomers that don't reflect and learn from those experiences. They have more and more, but they keep doing things the same way. They keep
Same thing. Groundhog Day. Yeah, totally get that. So what are some of the big stumbling blocks that somebody has right now, or the experiences that they're going through and they're like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to do it anymore. Megan, I totally need your help. What are they going through?
I think right now there's just been such a challenge with employee attraction, retention, and engagement. And people everywhere, every industry, every level are like, how do I keep this team engaged? How do I keep them with me? How do I keep them motivated? And part of that is, what do I provide for them? Just as much as how do I show up for them?
Nice.
And that's a shift. And I know we're still in a pandemic, post-pandemic world, whatever you want to call that, but that has truly been a challenge. And I think it's been a new burden that leaders are really carrying. They're more intentional with it. They're more cognizant of that role that they have in that motivation, in that engagement aspect.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too with it, especially if somebody's used to managing in a certain way, that they can walk across the hall and see people and talk to them, they're getting a certain feedback that they don't get when they're just WhatsApp me if you have any issues. And, that can be there's a lot of trust going on in that relationship, and there's also a very distinct conversation going on in that hey, this deadline needs to be met. I need this done by this date. Can you do it? And awesome, great, rock and roll, let's go. Let me know if you have any issues. All of that. It's just really, it's a more articulate conversation than I think it used to be. And people are just adjusting to that.
I think there's some pros and cons to that. Having to articulate some of those pieces. I am all about clear communication. And I'll say that 9 times out of 10, the assumptions that you make, right, the jumps that you do, always going to come back and bite you. And I don't care if you're in person or virtual, that is happening. Even just the assumptions that people understand. Like you have an announcement, you say something, or you're even talking one-on-one. You're like, you got that, right? And they're like, yes, I do. And they turn around and do something completely different. You're like, but you said you got it.
Yeah, that one was always one of my favorites. And then I learned, this is my problem, not theirs, because it keeps happening to me. Therefore, it's my issue. Yeah, I think that's also a tough one for people that are going, but they, and I was like, well, yeah, but the only thing they have in common is you. Therefore, yeah.
It's a different shift. It's a different, I'll say more accountability and responsibility. And people aren't always willing to take that on. They're not always excited about it. They're not willing to look inward or to even engage someone like myself or someone else to say, hey, how do I fix this? What's wrong? What am I missing in this conversation? And having that vulnerability and ability to admit, I don't know everything is
Mhm.
really, really tough. But people are becoming more and more open with that.
Well, and I find it very bizarre that um, for our industry in particular, that when people come on, I'm like, you are not going to know what you're doing. You're not going to. Anything you think you know is probably changed already, or it's going to change in the next 6 months. So I really need you to be comfortable with being able to say, I don't know. And that's totally cool. But I need to know that you don't know so that we can go and figure out how do we know. And I think too that there's this whole concept of accountability and responsibility. Responsibility seems to have a heavy connotation to it. And I think when people look at it as a fun way of figuring out who they are and what they're made of, as opposed to, I have a job to do, I got to go to work, and this is the stuff we're working on, which to me sounds like kill me now. I'd way rather go in and go, okay, how are we going to figure out how to get this accomplished? And what are we going to learn from it? But
Yeah.
that's a really weird way of looking at the
I'm
job
like
for most people.
processing all of that. I was like, the responsibility is heavy. Yes. we need, there's a fear with it, but the how are we going to do it? I'm going to just say it's that collaborative environment. And people aren't always comfortable being in that collaborative. They're used to being in that more dictatorship role. And so the way that people are leading is shifting dramatically.
I love that. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start their journey with you?
Oh, I love that you said start the journey. So I have a website. It's eleaderexperience.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com. I think it's /MTRITCAK. I'd love to connect with you. Please drop me a line. Please shoot me a message. And I'm happy to talk with anyone about their leadership journey.
I love it. And we will, of course, have all of Megan's notes in the show notes, as always.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
You're not done yet. I get to ask you at this point. At what point in life did you know that you're special kind of crazy enough to become an entrepreneur?
Oh, probably halfway through my Fortune 500 company. I loved agency life. That's a very entrepreneurial environment, right? Very quick pace. You talk about that kind of creative environment. A lot of responsibility. And then right around when I was in corporate, I'll say probably around 27 years old.
Wow. And it was just, I can do this. Is that what was going on?
Um,
Or what was going on?
I think it was a more, at that point, it was a little bit more of a, I can figure this out myself. It was I don't want to go through the bureaucracy of something else. I
Fair enough.
takes a couple challenging cultures and challenging situations to see like, why am I navigating through this? Why am I putting up, frankly, with this kind of behavior or policies that aren't meant to be helpful, right? Like when you have a performance and review, it's like, well, I only have so many fives I can give to my team because like you have an allotment. Yeah. I was like, this is
Oh my.
like, this is not cool. This is
Yeah.
not how life works. So
Well, and it kind of cracks me up. You bring up a good point because we're talking about leadership. I'm going to bring it up at this point. I think it's kind of funny because I always ask that question at the end of every interview. And for the most part, it's because I got sick and tired of corporate, decided not to deal with the crap anymore. And I find it particularly funny. And I hope that things are shifting in that HR quits hiring for skill set, starts hiring for culture and aptitude and fit, and that we quit having this stupid game of politics within a business, because like that slows it down so much. It's crazy how much it slows it down. Like they could be going at like epic paces, and they don't because of that.
It's everything happens for a reason in those. It's not like they just said, let's create all this policy. It's like, no,
Yeah,
there
they
was an
did.
incident and now we have a policy for it. And the older the company is, the more ridiculous policies they have. So I used to do a lot of direct mail, and just remembered this like 2 weeks ago. There was literally a profanity screen that we took through like all the database to see when people put naughty words in their names, because we didn't want to send mail to naughty words. And the only reason we have a profanity screen is because there was a complaint. And so poor Big Tits Bertha, she was very unhappy at her friends that signed her up for mail. And now you do. So those policies, those things, like you have to run it every single time, because something happened, and it does weigh you down and bog you down. There was definitely that piece. I will say, I looked at some of the models I was in. I said, this isn't sustainable. This isn't part of the life or the culture. I know I can succeed at it, but at the end, it's not going to be worth it as much as if I just put that same energy into doing it for myself.
Awesome. He's going crazy because you can sense my energy of this is the stuff that gets me living. This is when I get all excited about it, because I'm hoping that that entrepreneurs are looking at this and reassessing those decisions on an annual basis, because just because Betty got offended by it, Betty's not here anymore. Everybody else in the company loves it. Like, and it's not necessarily that it's something that was quote unquote offensive. It's just, it didn't work at that time. And now it's just time to review it and make sure that the policies work. Cause I think it's a terrible idea not to be able to give as many fives as somebody deserves.
I know it's a silly example, but
it's true. It's so true. And I forget about all these things because I've been out of it for so long. I'm like, nobody would do that. Yes, they did. Oh, right. Okay.
it's insane when you say it out loud, but somehow that people keep doing it and keep falling for it, and no one fights and stands up and is willing to change it.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because when people get ratings, oftentimes if people get 9s, it's because, well, nobody's perfect. So I gave them a 9. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, like they say 10 for God or something. I've seen that. Cool policy.
Okay.
Help me understand how that helps your culture.
Yeah, right?
Help me understand why I'd want to even work here or strive for it.
Megan, you have been awesome. Thank you so much. Any last words for our peeps?
No, I'll beat the listening drum again, just because I'm on such a rant for it lately. Listen to your team, listen to your families, listen to your friends, listen to your clients as much as you can. Really pay attention, and give them that gift. So have a wonderful time. This is absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.